Wow, I thought I'd get a better intro, but we'll go with that. Thanks, David. Wow, man. After all these years, all I get is, yeah, there's your intro. So, welcome. My name's Todd. I get to share, like every year, I love coming to this event because I usually don't speak about automotive stuff, which is what I always am speaking about as we travel around the country. I spent this year with David, with General Motors, doing a bunch of cities, Chrysler, some cities, everyone kind of traveling and speaking a lot. And you know, today I get to do something that's just fun. Every year, at the end of the year, I usually leave Kain's conference, I go home, and by the end of the year, I kind of do all my planning for next year. Yes, I'm one of those people that have to keep everything planned and organized. And you know, everyone sets all these great goals for themselves and tries to figure out exactly how to be a better person, whether you want to be a better parent, whether you want to be a better spouse, whether you just want to be better in general, healthier, happier. So every year I go back, and this year I kind of went back and I was like, I missed a few things, and I said, well, I wonder why I missed those things. And it was habits. And I started to really think about habits because habits are different than goals. You know, goals to me are those big outreach things like you're striving for, and habits are what get you there. It's the dailies. And I realized, I was like, wow, those dailies are really the true driving factors of whether you'll be successful or you won't. You'll miss the mark. And you'll be disappointed in that you didn't lose enough weight or you weren't able to squat enough weight. I have to point out that, you know, he's a big guy. So. And to me, it's a very interesting journey to be able to understand what really affects our motivations and what gets us to where we need to go. And habits affect everything inside us. They are the sum of us. Everything we do, everything from whether it's relationships, work routines, relaxing, social life, what we eat, drink, sleep, our morning rituals, all these things are very interconnected and they're ingrained in us. These are our habits, and this is who we are. So we may define ourselves in many different ways, but truly you are defined by the habits and the things you do daily. And those habits can lead you to greatness, they could lead you to self-misery, they could lead you anywhere. So today I just want to kind of share with you some things I've learned over this year now in understanding habits. So I have less than 30 minutes, but we'll go through some stuff. The science behind habits is super simple. It's easy. There's only 3 things, right? So we have a cue, reminder, or trigger, we call that. So that's something that makes it. Your phone rings. That's a trigger. That happens first, right? Then routine follows. That's you talking on the phone, and hopefully it's a good outcome. So you're like, that's positive. And then the reward, and then you kind of do it again. And as habits form inside of us, it's interesting. Mike, okay, now I'm back. Okay. So as habits form, it's interesting that the good habits stick to us, but some bad habits stick to us as well. It just depends on where the reward and what happens inside this cycle. So the science behind these are very simple. So once you know this, it's easy now to start breaking your habits down and start understanding your habits for truly what they are to ultimately, to me, get a better benefit out of them. So I kind of looked, and the best habits you could ever develop are what's called identity-based habits. These are the ones to your core. You know, a lot of times we do different types of habits based on performance. Like I want to create a new habit that, you know, I want to run, 5 miles a day. That's a performance habit, right? Or an appearance habit. I want to lose 10 pounds before Christmas because I know I'm going to eat a ton during holidays. So all these things, but your identity ones. So I looked back and I said, okay, what's a true identity habit for me? And I grew up surfing since I was 5 years old, so I spent my life in the ocean, and well, pretty much all the oceans around the world. And I always loved to charge really big waves. The bigger the better. I never cared why. I would be the guy, just give me a board and I'll paddle out, and it doesn't matter. I've paddled out at Mavericks at 40 foot. I've paddled out, at Jaws, PIE off the coast of Maui, breaking. I mean, it was a 60-foot day, but I was not taking a 60-foot wave. I mean, that was just a little too intimidating. But it was very interesting to me, like, where did that come from? And I had to go back, and I really thought long and hard for about 2 weeks. And my identity habit happened when I was 13 years old, and Hurricane Gloria. Do you guys remember Hurricane Gloria? Anyone from the East Coast kind of devastated the East Coast all the way up. And I grew up in South Jersey, Ocean City. So when Gloria came, obviously the huge storm surge came with it and massive waves. So I said, this is probably a great time to go surfing. So I did not tell my mom or anyone. And I went down to the beach. They were evacuating our island because here comes a storm. And I went out, and there was no way I could paddle out. I mean, I just saw this whitewater and stuff, and none of my friends would go. They're like, nope, we're out of here. I want nothing to do with this. And I said, I still wanted to go. I don't know why. At 13 years old, I thought this was a good idea to paddle out in the middle of an ocean while a hurricane is coming, but I couldn't paddle out, so I went down to our 9th Street pier, and I climbed over their barbed wire. I ran out to the end of the music pier, jumped off that to basically put me out where the lineup would be, close to where waves would be. So I took off on this first wave, and I was like, holy shit. I mean, it was like a building falling down on me, and I made it off of it, and I had such adrenaline and excitement. I said, okay, this is a good positive reinforce. I went through the routine. I had the reward. I survived. I didn't drown. I was like, this is great. So then I started looking on my boardwalk, and I see police cars and their lights and their bullhorn, like, get in here. And I was like, well, I can't just paddle in. So I had to take another wave, and of course. And I had to take another wave because that wave was really good. So about 7 waves later, I finally get washed into right by a staircase. It was about to get destroyed. And they get me and put me in handcuffs and actually take me off the island on this special vehicle because the island is pretty much flooded out. And yeah, so I think my true identity came from this, right? And it's so bizarre. Like, I had to go all the way back to that moment of where that habit was built of, yeah, I would charge any waves. Even today, you know, just I'll use someone else's board and I'll go out in big waves because that's just an innate part of, like, habits, right? So it was my habit. So I find that when you can identify with your habit and you truly have that, it's a game changer for you. It's not these habits that you say, oh, I just want to lose weight and I'm going to try PX90 or I'm going to do these, and then you kind of fail or you don't get all the way to where you want to go because you haven't identified yourself with those. So to me, the recipe of this was easy. Decide the type of person you truly want to be. That's at your core. So what is it? Do you want to be an intellectual? Do you just want to be super happy? Do you want to be more grateful? Do you want to be healthier? Do you want to be an athlete? Any of these things. Do you want to be the best car dealer? Do you want to be anything? It doesn't matter what it is, but you have to be able to identify with that. And then the only way to get there is to have small wins. For me, it was every wave I took in Hurricane Gloria at 13, and then every wave I've taken since. All these things just aligned. And I think when you have all these small wins, that will get you there. Versus the idea of, hey, I'm just going to set a big goal and not really figure out how to get there and lay out the map. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go, because to me, all these things tie in and are critical for our success by building really good habits. So as we go, to me, we all have habits, and we can use our existing habits as anchors. So what I did, and kind of a fun exercise, you guys can do it too, write down the things you do every single day, right? This is your habits. Like, you wake up, like brush your teeth, you know, feed the dog, whatever those things are that you do without even, before you have your cup of coffee or any caffeine, you don't even think. You're just in there doing those actions and motions, right? They are truly ingrained habits in you. So you find out what those are because they're very easy to link new habits to. And we'll talk about that as we go. And things that happen to you are the other side. So something that always happens in work, like meetings, and then after a meeting, you do something like you check your email, or things that happen to you that, hey, the sun always sets, right? At least it should for all of us, right? If you miss a sunset, there might be a problem, right? So you're probably not alive. So to me, all these things that affect us or things that we're actually doing. So like a fun experiment was my dentist was always like, you need to floss more. I hate flossing. I think it's annoying, and I have this permanent retainer on my bottom, which is even harder to floss through. So she's like, you have to floss more. She's like this German lady who's like, you must floss. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, how do I make this and instill a better habit to do this? So I thought about it for a little while, and I said, well, most people, I keep your floss in a drawer and your toothbrush out. So I have an electric toothbrush. So I decided to put the floss next to my toothbrush. So every time I pick up my toothbrush, I see the stupid ass floss, and then I'm like, brush my teeth, and then I pull the floss out and I floss my teeth, right? And it was that type of necessity that allowed me to floss every single day. Whether I wanted to or not, it became part of the ritualized habit, right? Because I was able to link a new habit off an existing habit. So much easier for you to do that to be successful. And that is what's called stacking habits. So you can stack habit on top of habit. Great example. How many people in this room smoke? Okay, couple people, right? How many people, when they go drink, end up smoking, right? Yes, right? Because you stack those habits. Now, they're bad habits, but, well, except drinking for an Irishman. But, you know, the reality is we stack those habits, right? So one thing leads to another, and then maybe poor decision making, like Arnold might be streaking through, you know, downtown Kentucky on Main Street by 2 o'clock in the morning. So all these habits kind of link up, and they stack up. So you can stack habits very effectively, good or bad. It's just your choice. So try to find the little habit and then build off of that. So to me, you know, a lot of things I've tried to change is, hey, could I be healthier? Could I eat better? You know, could I take in more juice versus typical just regular food? All these little habit changes happen because I'm able to kind of stack one on top of the other. And it works in business too. So to me, good habits, I talked about last year, like not always checking email every 2 seconds, right? Do it in blocks. And when you do it in a block, it's a better habit, right? That I say, okay, I'm checking my email for 15 minutes. Now I'm going to leave that. I'm going to move on and do something else. Not respond to text messages, not respond to voicemails. I'm going to sit down and, you know, write something or work on a marketing piece or something else. So to me, it's all these same things. And one of the other things I always looked at was writing, because I always like to write. And like, I will never probably sit down and write a book, but I said, well, I need to write more. So how do you write more? So, you know, I always did the excuse, oh, I must be inspired. I have to see something that I'm engaged at and say, oh, I want to write about it at that moment. Well, that's not a good way to become a good writer. The good way to become a writer is to have some type of trigger, sit down and write, you know, 5 sentences to start, or write 10 sentences to start. And through time and days, that ultimately can get you that you'll end up writing a lot. And now I write usually 500 to 700 words almost a day. That only happened, I think, because of being able to stack habits on top of each other. But the most important one you'll also learn, and when you take time to do this, is there's something called a keystone habit. So if you notice on an arch, that little bright one is called a keystone. The keystone really supports no weight, but it holds all the structure together. If you pull the keystone, your whole arch collapses. Keystone habits for us, there is one main habit you have, whether you realize it or not, that controls a lot of the other habits and actions that you're taking in your daily life. For me, it took me a little bit to figure it out, but it was exercise. When I exercise, I'm happier, which is good. I can concentrate more. I feel healthier. I eat better. All these things linked off of one keystone for me. So when I do that, it's great. When I don't exercise, things start falling off. Like, I'm like, screw it, let's eat pizza tonight. I mean, fuck it, I'll drink beer too. And I wreck myself, right? Because I've like pulled the keystone and I'm like, it doesn't matter. So it's interesting when you start realizing that everyone has one, and it could be daily prayer, it could be walking every day, it could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Find your keystone and build off that. Because whatever truly is making you happy is that good habit that you have to build off of. So to me, finding the keystone is a critical component to success. The other thing, a lot of times when we start setting goals and all this, we're really good at setting deadlines, right? We say, okay, by Christmas, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to increase my bench press by 40 pounds, or whatever it's going to be, right? We set this goal. But a lot of times we miss the scheduling to get there. The reality is the scheduling is much more important than the goal. I think goals are important, but I think the scheduling is more important. It's the journey that's going to get you there. It's the steps that are going to get you there. It's the daily ritual that's going to get you there. Nothing just magically says, poof, you've achieved your goals. You got to do the daily work. So all the things that you think about, whether you want to be better at business, more successful in operating, learning more about technology, that's why you're here today, or learning more about internet marketing, all these things, to me it's about scheduling the time to make that happen on a daily basis, not the once in a while type thing. When it's sporadic, it's very hard to achieve your goals. When you do it every single day, day in, day out, just little bits of time, you can get there. It's funny that I mentioned flossing before, because in an article that was written at Harvard, it was great. They said, if you want to learn to floss your teeth, and this is going to be a big challenge for you, and I didn't think it was that big of a challenge, but I think it's a challenge for some people, they said, Day 1, floss 1 tooth. That's it. Just floss a tooth and then stop, right? And it's a win. It's a small win. You got something, right? You won in your mind, you won in your heart, your gut, everything says I won. And then the next day you do 2 teeth. And the next day you do 3. And it's just little progressive steps that get you places. So when I think about things like, oh, I want to be healthier, well, that's a great goal. But the question is, how are you going to do that? So easy things, like to me, I looked at, and I always try to share this because I think a lot of times when people say, hey, I want to go run a marathon, well, let's just run 3 days a week first, or let's just walk 2 days a week first. Let's do these basic little steps consistently through time before you try to just take over the world. I believe you'll naturally take over the world when you have really good habits that you're executing on every single day. I think it'll naturally happen. So to me, it's the scheduling of the little things. Like you want to, lose weight, then walk, 50 paces today, get a little pedometer. Tomorrow do 100, then do 200. And within days, weeks, you'll be walking a pretty decent distance. And to me, that's a very powerful thing because the schedule and those daily habits you build are what's going to drive that. And to me, truly, the cumulative impact of staying on schedule is probably the most important thing, because how many times have you guys been trying to set a goal, or you have a goal in mind? Maybe it's health related and you go, man, I need to go to the gym, and you look outside and it's raining or snowing, and what do you say? Hell no, man, I'm not doing that. And you just shut off, right? And it's at those moments that's when the habit has to kick in and really get there. Or the other side of staying on schedule, I found, let's say you have scheduled today to run 3 miles, and you realize your meetings ran over, you're way out of whack, you now have 30 minutes. What do we normally do? We'll skip it, right? The reality is you should still throw your shoes on, throw your clothes on, run 5 sprints and call it a day. You did something, anything towards it. It connects you to the habit, it keeps you on the schedule. Anything, even if it's 3 minutes, it doesn't matter. What you're doing is building these connections inside your synapse that will connect you to the habit that it's deeper inside of you. And that's all this is an exercise of. When you can do that, the goals, all those things will naturally flow because you're developing amazing habits along the way. And to me, developing the habit is the key. So tiny routines that are repeatable. This is really what this is a big driver. A lot of times we have, as I said, big ideas, big goals, break them down into the smallest parts. It's funny how they train, I've always loved to do research, how they train Navy SEALs when they go into any type of battlefront. It is very small moves. They do not think they see the whole picture, but they're concentrating on very small little executables. That's all they work at. That's why they're so good at what they do. It's because they work and manage the small executables with precision and accuracy 100% of the time. It's a funny story. I always think of the tiny routines. I forget what show it was on. They took a SEAL and they ran him through this amazing obstacle course, and he had to shoot like 5 targets along the way. And as he's running and doing all this, he had to climb up like a 12-foot wall over this, run on his balance beam, then take a shot, and he had to do all this stuff. Then they said, okay, we're going to mess with you. So they put him in an ice tank, and their goal was to cool his core temperature down to, I think it was like 85 degrees, so basically freeze him. And he just sat there, and they put an infrared on him. They could not mentally cool him down. They poured more ice in. After an hour, they said, okay, we can't physically lower this guy's temperature, so we're just going to run the program again. So he hops out of a tank after being in an hour in ice water, runs the whole course again. He's 5 seconds faster. That happens, to me, it's the mental disciplines, the habits this guy has developed over years and years of small little bits of training that have gotten him there. So to me, that's why I always think it's the small little repetitive things that are going to get us there. And I think when I start looking at all this, I've fallen victim to this as much as anybody here. And it's lifestyle behaviors or life-changing transformations. This is what we love in America. This is PX90. I lost 900 pounds in 7 days. This is, hey, I built a $7 million business in 1 year or less. You should see me do it. Come on my yacht with all my lady friends. And this is This is the reality of this stuff, right? This is what we see on television, life-changing transformations. The reality is not one person. We know the habits behind it, how long it truly took, right? What they went through on a daily basis. So to me, lifestyle behavior changes on habit forming is much better. So when I think, hey, I want to run a marathon. Well, I wouldn't go out and say, okay, I'm just going to run a marathon. That's going to change my whole life. I might say, hey, I'm going to run 3 days a week, right? I mean, that's reality. That's a change of my behavior that may naturally lead me to this, but I'm going to start there because it's achievable. And it's something that I can identify with mentally that I can get behind. Because if you can't get behind the habit, you will never do it. And to me, that's the fundamental thing that switch kind of went off last year for me to say, okay, I can change things by changing my lifestyle behavior versus just saying, okay, I'm going to go crazy and whatever. I want to go paddle like 10 races around the world that are going to kill me because I'll be paddling 30, 40 miles a whack, and paddle surfing. But I was like, no, let me just start basic. And I was like, I'll surf more. And it was easy. And I can make those changes. And fundamentally, it works. So I look at this and think about lifestyle changes versus just the dramatic transformations. The other thing is, and I'll use David as a perfect example of this. David, I remember a couple years ago called me. He's like, oh no, not eating meat now. He goes, he's off meat, right? So this was his natural progression. And what I call it is progressive extremism. And this is a really good thing. And I actually called it establishing bright lines. So what it was, and if everyone wanted to become a vegetarian, right? You don't just say, I'm a vegetarian, man. You just can't do that. Your body will freak out. I know. Listen, you're an odd bird, bro. The average person will stop with certain things. So, like, how would you get all the way to be a vegetarian when you love meat, potatoes, fish, chicken, everything else, all the fixins? That's a southern thing, right? All the fixins. Like, so you love all this stuff. So the natural, what I call progressive extremism, would be much simpler. Hey, I'm not going to eat meat now. So that becomes one bright light. I don't eat meat. And then your next bright light may be, I don't eat, the fish of the sea, right? Okay, I'm out of those. And then it's like, okay, I don't eat chicken of the sea. No chicken, right? So it's this natural progression to get you there. You find these guideposts along the way. And that helps you absolutely achieve habit formation so much more effectively than just trying to, go all in. When we go all in, we're kind of setting ourselves up to fail. So I kind of say, let's reduce a little of that. Let's just focus on things that you can affect change immediately and have positive reinforcement. Because believe it or not, we all love that. When we get a little win, it's awesome, And when you're thinking in your mind, oh my God, I gotta lose whatever. I need to lose 30 pounds, and you lose a half a pound, you're like, this sucks, I'm done. Versus, hey, I'm just getting healthier. I'm healthier. I can breathe better. I can walk farther. I'm eating better. And focusing on the lifestyle side, not the goal and the transformation. So to me, a lot of this you can kind of look at as progressive extremism. Just look for the one thing to get you to the next thing, to get you to the next thing. And then they will naturally link themselves up. So kind of making it fun. So to me, homework. Yes, I get to give homework. I feel like a teacher today. Think of one good habit, like one thing you would like to change, one thing you would like to execute on. And, something to me, the behavior change is so easy you can't say no, or something you could stack onto something you're already doing, right? Something that could get you one more level to say, okay, I want to spend more time with my family, or I want to do whatever habit it is, or hey, I will not pick up my cell phone when I'm spending time with my kids. Because to me, it's just a distraction. And, it took me a while to break that habit, a long time. And I failed at it 100 times over, and I kept having to improve on it. But it's okay. I find that it's not making the mistake of failing on the habit that's critical. It's your ability to quickly get back onto the habit. That's the real critical. And you can take that from Olympic athletes. They're the same way. When they lose, they instantly say, okay, let's break it down. They move right on, and they're right back into the pool. They're right back on the track. They're right back wherever they need to be, focused back on task at hand. They're able to disengage and get right back to task. And I think when I look at bad habits, we all have them, and we're going to make mistakes and slip up. Your goal is how fast can you get back on the right road? on the correct road to get you where you need to be. And when you can do that quickly and take that mental strength to do that, anything is possible. And to me, again, I love this stuff because it's always a journey. And I learn so much. I'm probably the biggest experimenter on myself. I'm the biggest guinea pig. And I find it exciting because I say, wow, so much can be changed. And you can change so much inside yourself by just focusing in on simple habits. So today was a little bit about habits. Again, quick homework, pretty simple. Just find one thing, one super simple thing. Hey, I want to walk more. Great, get a pedometer, walk 10 steps today, 20 steps tomorrow, 30 steps the next day. Hey, well, you're in a busy dealership. It's hard to do that. Well, hey, every time I desk a deal, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk all the way down to service and touch the back door and walk all the way back. Anything is possible. Or it's like you come home, you have a bad habit of sitting in front of the television and watching TV, and you just sit there like a lump. Okay, well, every time a commercial comes on then, get up, do one sit-up, do one push-up, get back on the couch. I mean, you will literally start breaking down your bad habits by installing new good habits that are making you feel good about yourself. And to me, it's that little transition that will get you there. So with that, I am done. David, right on time, right? Okay. So if you have any questions, you can tweet me or text me or call me or do whatever, all right? That's how it works.